It's you, I talked to somebody, she was working in the office.
I hope to lose it because I think I'm about to finish. I just have a few things to tweak in the planning, on the planning page. And I can describe about the two pieces of data I pulled over in the screenshot. And I think, well, I'll be ready for the review. I don't necessarily think I'll be done, but it's a starting point.
Oh,
Well, I was getting rid of that other guy.
hey, you want my picture? What is your map? It says penguins don't fly, penguins can't fly, I can't fly, therefore I'm a penguin. You know, you guys can't be serious all the time.
That's good.
Absolutely.
Yes.
What's it showing? We got her. The carry's here. There we go. Getting a battery? Yeah. We are on YouTube.
We look back to Facebook.
Yeah, the link is on Facebook Live. So.
Good to go? Good evening, I'm Jim Welch, I'm the president of the Kingsport City Schools Board of Education. I welcome you to this regular board meeting on Tuesday, September 8th, 2020. We call this meeting to order. Mr. True, would you please lead us in the pledge of allegiance?
I would if we would all please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir. Welcome members of the public who are joining us via YouTube and Facebook Live, and apologize that our work session was not broadcast last time. Hopefully that situation will be rectified as we move into the future. We are holding our meeting in accordance with the Tennessee Pledge, which limits our attendance. We do have space for public here for those of you who wish to attend, but that space is limited as long as we have this. So we thank you for joining us via social media. I need a motion to accept the agenda for the meeting as it is presented to you. So motion. Thank you. Is there a second?
Okay, so Mr. Wells, can I ask a question? Sure. Would you be willing to make a modification to the agenda that we pull an item from that item?
Yes.
4.4?
4.4. I will accept the motion to table item 4.4.
I motion to table item 4.4 on the present building.
It has been moved to table item 4.4, the approval of the purchase agreement for Crest Building Properties. The reason for the tabling is that Mr. Fry cannot be present tonight, and we need to have him discuss this. Do I have a second for that? Second. Ms. Altizer, you'll call the
Mrs. Myers?
Aye.
Mr. Golden?
Aye.
Mr. Hyde?
Aye.
Mrs. Upshaw? Aye. Mr. Webb?
Aye. Now I'll accept the motion for the acceptance of the agenda as amended.
Wait, did you have what you did?
Yeah, she said I could. A motion to accept the agenda as amended.
Second, thank you. Ms. Alzheimer, you'll call the vote.
Mrs. Myers?
Aye.
Mr. Golden?
Aye.
Mr. Hyde?
Aye.
Mrs. Upshaw? Aye. Mr. Webb?
Aye. This is now the time when members of the audience are invited to comment on agenda items. It is not time to speak about personnel issues, as there are more appropriate ways in which these can be addressed. If you are not sure how to do this, please ask one of us after the meeting. In your remarks, you may not refer to students by name without permission from the parent or guardian. If you would like to speak on a topic not included on the agenda, you are asked to submit your request in writing to the superintendent of schools at least 3 business days prior to the scheduled date of the meeting. Now, if you would like to speak about an item included on tonight's amended agenda, please raise your hand. I request that you state your name and limit your remarks to a maximum of 5 minutes. Seeing none, we will move on to the next item on the agenda, which is community interest report, virtual instruction. Mr. Christian Horner, Brian Wheeler.
So as they're coming forward, I want to draw attention to these gentlemen from the standpoint of a year ago, these folks were not part of Kingsport City Schools. And I'll let them kind of tell their background before they get started in their presentation. But we're incredibly blessed to have the talent here at Kingsport City Schools. As we've had to start the school year in a much different fashion than what we traditionally do. And so I'll let you guys introduce yourselves and kind of give your backgrounds for our board so that they can kind of get an idea of the names that are going along with the things that they see via email and things of that nature.
Sure. I'm Christian Horner. So my background is I've been in education now for below 10 years. Both as a teacher, as an instructional coach, and I accepted the position of Innovative Learning Coordinator this year here at Kingsport City Schools. I've worked mainly in Middle Tennessee. I worked in Wilson County, Metropolitan Nashville, and Rutherford County over the 9 years with them. And my last role was an instructional technology coach, both at the middle school and high school level. I did a lot of work in rolling out very purposeful 2-to-1 programs that is where you provide one device for every 2 students in the district. Started in middle school and then moved to high school with the intent next year moving into 1. So that's my background. Coming into this year, I can be honest, I don't know if everybody would say, but we've all been prepared for what but we're certainly doing our best, and I'm here to speak to the exciting things to come as we move into continuing virtual learning.
Ryan?
I'm Ryan Wheeler. I, like Christian, I've been in education for 10 years. This is my 11th year now as a teacher, and most recently as an instructional technology coach in the Austin, Texas area. Now, why am I here? My wife is from Kingsport originally. We got married here and graduated ETSU, so we're excited to be back. I was hired on as an instructional design specialist, and very quickly was recruited to help oversee and coordinate professional learning for the RCL teachers, remote choice learning. It's been a challenge, of course, but I'm up for it. I have a lot of experience doing those sort of things for my former district, and I'm excited. I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to work through the challenges, and I'm excited for our students, staff, community.
So thank you for taking just a minute and letting them know. I know that, we're grateful. Again, relocated from different places to come to Kingsport, and so we're grateful to have these gentlemen leading this initiative, for our school district. Not just now, but starting to give the idea of starting to have conversations about what does this look like over the next 3 to 5 years, and starting to lay out that plan. There's obviously some immediate work, just what do we got to do to just get things started now, but now starting to get some thought about what the virtual learning look like for our district, over the next 3 to 5 years. So I'll turn it over to you and I'll stop delaying, I'm sorry.
Yeah, and I guess I'll start by thanking the board. Thank you for having us, giving us a chance to kind of explain how this is rolled out and where we are looking forward and where we are right now. That's essentially going to frame how we're going to talk about virtual learning. When I think of KCS and virtual learning, it lives in 2 worlds right now. We have RCO, which Ryan has played a really large part in, and face-to-face learning with the virtual opening and going forward knowing that we're going to support some sort of virtual learning throughout this year and into the future. I'm going to take the more face-to-face route because that's what I work with on a more daily basis. I'll allow Ryan to speak on the RCL side. So our face-to-face learning, there are 3 different ways we support virtual learning. One is true virtual, which is online learning. It's when a student is homesick or somehow or other just needs that access to learning online at home. And it's a true online learning environment. The hybrid learning is where you're going from some learning online to some learning in face-to-face, what we see from our 6 to 12 groups right now. The blended learning is what gets practiced when we are 100% back face-to-face, like our K-5 group is now. And that's really where we work with those teachers to try and incorporate how can we utilize digital learning to really advance and enhance that instructional practice inside the classroom. So there's 3 ways that we really work with teachers on virtual learning there. RCL lives in that one world.
Yeah, RCL is strictly online as far as the curriculum goes. We have KCS teachers leading the support. We'll get more into how that looks, but it's primarily online, with KCS support. And then our goal is to provide instruction that mimics and lives up to KCS standards as best we can. And we're excited about the opportunity to work together to make these 2 things now that appear separate, to mesh them together and have curriculum that is seamless from where a face-to-face student could easily shift back and forth between the 2. And in terms of how they're supported curriculum-wise, Canvas is the primary delivery tool for instruction for face-to-face. Remote choice learning is primarily been Odysseyware, and we are slowly introducing Canvas into the mix as well to supplement that.
So looking where we were, we are, and we're going for face-to-face virtual, I put up some information that was from spring 2020. At the height of our Canvas use, it was at 46 total users, and that's teachers and students. We predominantly saw 6-12 users in that group. There were some 3-5 grade level teachers and students in there, and little to none of our K2 groups, just simply because lack of access to device. That was the primary reason for that. The support early on this year, where we were, was really being intensive on Canvas training. When we kind of looked at what platform would best suit our students moving into this year, Canvas clearly became the winner there. And it also became clear that we had a large group, our K-5 teachers, who had had little training in this. And so that was where we spent a lot of our attention. We spent 3 full days with that group, 2 days with our 6 to 8 group. And then our 9-12 groups they're lucky enough that there's been enough usage of Canvas that there's a lot of high users in our 9-12. But we also have some amazing teachers that have been well versed in Canvas and led training for those 9-12 groups as well. Where we currently are is we're seeing over 8,000 users per day in Canvas.
Hey, Christian, can I make one thing?
Sure.
So where we were, and that we learned from in the spring, prior to these gentlemen being here, is that while we had Canvas users, we also had Google Classroom. We also had Schoology. We also had multiple things. We had part of the reason that we didn't have depth training was because we allowed a lot of things. And so what we heard from families in the spring was I had to log into Schoology for math, Google Classroom for English, science was in Canvas. The experience, it was, and all the passwords that go along with that, that were created barriers for students in the spring. And so coming into this year, we evaluated and made the decision that all our eggs are in the Canvas learning management system because of all the features that it offers to us. So I'm just trying to provide some historical context for our board and that we took feedback that we got from families in the spring to try to make each step of the way inform the work that we're doing. So
I appreciate that.
Can I ask a question quick, or will we hold questions at the end?
you can.
It's along the same line as that. So are we now not using any other software that links back to Canvas? Is it all supposed to be, all content is supposed to be contained within Canvas?
So what we're working with now is a Canvas first approach. And I say Canvas first so that we can get our students in one platform. And from that point, they do have access to others. I'll use one of our textbook companies as an example, HMH. Our English curriculum that HMH provides for us is incredibly robust. And at the moment, HMH does not have an integration with Canvas that makes it seamless. And so we do have to have students link out to that HMH learning material. But we try to minimize that as much as possible. And going forward, I do know that we're looking to integrate as much as possible into Canvas so it does live in one platform. We're just not there yet.
Good. Okay. Follow-on question. So does that mean in order for a teacher to be able to create content, they have an approval process that says if I'm going outside of Canvas, here's why, and is that going to communicate by you guys, or is it? I've got 5 kids across all, high school all the way through elementary, and I'll find that there's still several links within Canvas that go to outside sources.
Yeah, I think I appreciate your perspective there because you're seeing a large range of that. And there's 2 things in my mind for that. One is that our teachers are on a continuum of learning, and depending on where that teacher started out at the beginning of the year, especially our K-5 group, some of them have never touched Canvas before, so they're learning along as they're going this year. And I think some of them will find out that some of the features inside Canvas are just as good as the ones they're used to. We have not made a mandate of not using those outside tools because honestly, if the teacher is comfortable with it right now, and we know that that is going to prepare learning for that student, we're allowing that to happen to allow some comfort. But moving forward, we do want to kind of start to integrate that more and more. And as we go through the year, we're providing training every month to these teachers, sometimes multiple times a month. I think you'll see some of those outside links clean up and become more, I guess, user-friendly is probably the best way to put that.
It creates drop-off dead zones. So when you're going and try to find work, I literally have to sit down with my sixth grader and go through each individual class and dig out, because it's not a uniform process of like, go here to see all your assignments. Even within Canvas, it's hidden into different things. And so then they'll go outside for something else and then come back in. And then, so it's not quite there. I appreciate and applaud all the effort that you're doing. I think it's the right move to standardize it all into one. But if there's other standardization, it would also be to have all the assignments again listed. So it's a whole lot easier. And I know you built this airplane at this thing. Please don't take this as criticism. It is just feedback of ways to make parents embrace this a little more. It's hard to navigate right now, but I appreciate the ownership. You guys are.
No, you're hitting the nail on the head. And I think in the perfect world, and this is where I go back to my teacher side. When I was trained to be a teacher, I was trained to teach in front of students, face to face. To teach online is a whole different practice, a whole different pedagogy. And so to get a whole system's worth of teachers brought up to speed on what that pedagogy is and the common practices, it's a lot. And so this, I think Dr. Morehouse kind of spoke to this being more of a 3 to 5 year process. I'm shooting for 3, Dr. Morehouse. But
oh yeah, no, I mean, we know that even if when we're on the other side of this, we're building capacity that we didn't have before, and virtual learning is not going to go away. I mean, we know that face to face is what we do best, but there's always going to be a need or a desire to have virtual learning in the wheelhouse. So trying to be thoughtful about what we're building to meet the quality standards. But with that, there's a learning curve. And so,
Yeah, in my former district, the process for our visionary instruction plan was a 5-year vision. When I left there, we had reached year 3, and we were just starting to really see it scale out. You provide very focused instruction to your teacher leaders. And I mean, you were working on that just a little while ago. And then, it bleeds out. Next thing you know, the other teachers, they're wanting in on it. That's why I mentioned the excitement earlier. While we had our struggles and, us being thrown right into the mix, what's exciting for us is to help build that vision based on these experiences that we and the teachers are being forced to experience. They're not always great, but we can document that and learn from it. But I agree. I have a son in high school, a daughter in elementary school, and there's a difference there. So it's being addressed. It's just going to take some time. Yeah.
So I guess to kind of pick up where I left off, the support for right now is we are looking now at school-based needs. So we're kind of stepping back in the beginning and how can we support the whole district at once. We're now diving into looking at what does each individual school need and setting up trainings to support that. We also are putting out a bi-weekly CNI newsletter. It's become bi-weekly. I think it typically was about once every month, but because of the need of communication, we scaled that up a little bit. There's also today what Ryan was talking about, the T2L selection. So this is transforming teaching and learning leaders. They're teacher leaders that have exhibited excellence in digital learning and a willingness to partner with their co-teachers, and they're building colleagues to help them learn and grow in this process. I'm going to be working very closely with that group to have monthly opportunities for teachers to connect and learn, whether it's a professional learning session or a model classroom lesson where teachers can come in and witness use of digital tools effectively, and then just sharing out knowledge and kind of opening their doors to their colleagues. But and then there's also the virtual learning. webinar series that we're working on through the month of September. Every week I have a virtual learning that our teachers can join on to. Those are recorded and documented in one location for our teachers to access, even if they're unable to make it, where they can still participate. So going forward, the idea with Canvas, I think we've kind of hit on it a couple of times, is we want to continue access for all of our users, K to 12, because it allows us to be flexible. It allows our teachers to use it in any environment, whether they're face-to-face, virtual, or hybrid. And our support will be continuing ongoing. And I appreciate Dr. Morehouse bringing it up, and Ryan also highlighting that this is a project that will begin now, but will be supported for years to come. And it will be done in a very purposeful manner so we do it the right way. The refining practices, Mr. Golden, is kind of what I think of when I think about those teachers that maybe there are things that are leaking out to other places, or it's not following the same across multiple teachers in one grade level. That's part of that refining process that we're going to put in place as we start talking to teachers and looking at their courses and how they're implementing that digital learning environment. And then the last piece of that is collecting model course content for our future as we see the virtual learning.
All right, so we were told 10 minutes, but trying to condense virtual learning this year into 10 minutes is difficult, so apologies in advance. I will try to get through remote choice here fairly quickly. Stop me if you have questions. We covered a little bit of it, but basically the history of remote choice learning started less than 3 months ago. When the parent survey went out and it was determined that a remote choice learning option was going to be required for parents and families to choose from. At that point, curriculum needed to be chosen. OdysseyWare was the one, and part of that was based on the fact that Cora Cox was already using OdysseyWare effectively, and we would have that support system from the beginning, which turns out was a very good thing. We also needed training and support for our teachers, always an essential piece of instruction, and then orientation and resources for parents and students. You can't launch a program like this without the proper information up front. So that was something that we needed as well. It was at that point in the middle of all that I was brought in the mix to help coordinate and facilitate some of these things, primarily professional learning for the teachers. Where we are now, we currently have, and it's always fluctuating a little bit, but approximately 1,700 students. And the breakdown between elementary, middle school, and high school is about what you would expect. It's fairly balanced. We have 114 teachers, KCS teachers, serving remote choice learning. The curriculum, which we touched on previously, is OdysseyWare, and that's being utilized for grades K through 12. And we are introducing Canvas, and KCS developed content through Canvas for some of those lower grade levels, where we're finding that some of the content in OdysseyWare may not be where we would like it to be in terms of KCS standards. And this is feedback we're getting. We're making adjustments. Building the ship, as you said. But that's part of the adjustments that we're making. What we don't want to do is just put this out there and say, hey, this is it. And if it's not up to our standards, we're not going to stick. We're going to make some choices and some decisions and do what's best for kids. So that's why we're introducing Canvas into remote choice learning. Long term, which we'll touch on here in just a second, long term remote choice learning will likely be 100% Canvas. It's just at this point, we needed something for the teachers at the last second to deliver to students without putting that huge burden on teachers to develop an entire year's worth of curriculum within just a couple of weeks.
We need to try to provide a foundation for them to build on. That there was at least a minimum experience that a student was going to have. And so we created a floor to build on. And so obviously where it's not a long-term investment on the part of the board. From the stand, I would say with Core Cox, we'll continue to use it, but to be the virtual curriculum long-term, that's what we're working with teachers now is to build that capacity right here.
Yeah, and it's exciting for me to get to work, with Christian and to see how the teachers in the face-to-face classrooms are developing their content and envisioning how that'll work for the remote choice learners as well. I mean, there will be an overlap, like I mentioned before, where, hopefully we're out of this pandemic by next school year. I would guess we would be, but who knows? If there needs to be a shift back and forth between remote choice and face-to-face for some families, our goal is to make that more of a seamless experience. So support, and I'll go through this quickly because we're over time, but the support that we provided, resource website, orientation for parents and students, Odysseyware training that we had to develop in-house because Odysseyware was so overbooked and inundated with requests that we didn't get official Odysseyware training from the company until just this last Friday. So the training we've been providing was developed in-house, lots of support from Core Cox Academy and DB Excel, so big kudos to them. Honestly, I don't know if we could have done it without them. Canvas teacher training, thanks to Christian here. With that introduction of Canvas into remote choice learning, we're not going to do that without providing training and support to those teachers. So that training was specifically for remote choice learning teachers. They are getting that as well. And then any individual teacher support that teachers need that they're not getting from a large group training, I'm providing that for them, coaching them through the different aspects of the RCL experience. Where we're going, I think we've touched on this quite a bit already. Refining processes, documenting successes, and the challenges and failures so that we can learn from them, and defining those best practices so that we can move forward and provide a remote choice learning experience that's going to continue, because we see this continuing as an option for the district, but making it more seamless and what parents, families, teachers, everybody in the community would expect, Kingsport City Schools to provide.
So we just listed a couple of challenges and victories that we could think of. There's plenty, I think, on both sides that we can actually add to this. But so challenges that we faced were multiple new platforms that we're using going into this year. Like Aspen, ClassLink, Odysseyware, Canvas for K-5 teachers, just to name some of the few things that we introduced to teachers this year. As any technical venture with new platforms, you're going to experience those technical issues. And so we had our fair share of those. Shifting instructional practices, that change of pedagogy from face-to-face teaching to online teaching, trying to help teachers understand what that looks like. And then turnaround, Ryan hit on that Odysseyware was overwhelmed. And that was any educational company right now is the same way. In my earlier conversations with our Canvas representative, they were at 250% of what they were working at last year. So I think any kind of platform like that that's involved in education right now is overwhelmed, which leads to longer turnaround. The victories that we experienced was just a solutions-focused mindset, no matter who we work with, teachers, administrators, different departments here at the ASC, everybody throughout this whole experience coming into it new, I can tell you 100% have been solutions-focused. We can always look into the positive, how we can get this right for our kids. A very patient community, which I'm very appreciative of. I got several phone calls from parents and had to help them through how does my student log into this platform and how do we access this course on Canvas and what is a class link? I don't even know what that is. So the community has been incredibly patient with us as we transition. I think they just understand that this is a trying time, but I do appreciate that. Students engaged in learning. So this is one that I chose to add because if you were a teacher in spring, it was really easy to get disheartened. There was a lot of students that disengaged and completely checked out, no matter how hard teachers work to provide a learning and a connection for those students. So to see the amount of engagement we've seen so far this year with students learning has been a positive for me. The remote learning program being launched in only essentially 3 weeks is incredibly impressive. If you look at the numbers, that's basically an entire school of students that we created a learning platform for.
A process that typically would take about 18 months to develop. You know, we were forced into scenario of having to create this because of, you know, the pandemic and providing this remote option. You know, there's been challenges. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm sure you've received some calls from parents with some difficulties, but you know, that's part of it. And the fact that we're learning from it, we're growing from it, we're documenting those things, and we're responding to those things and providing training that's specific to those needs and those challenges. I mean, I'm optimistic that things are only going to get better, and based on teacher satisfaction in terms of how they're feeling about this, it's on the increase. You know, it's been tough, but it's going up. The ship is starting to sail. It's no longer you know, filling up with water. We're moving in the right direction, and it's exciting because the last point is that teacher capacity is being built. You know, whether teachers really ever wanted that capacity or not, you know, that's where we're headed. And it's exciting for us, you know, that all the teachers are going to have this capacity now, because not only is it important in a remote situation, these tools and strategies are very effective for personalizing learning in the classroom. That's where we're excited. That's ed tech nerds.
Yeah, that's right. That kind of moves us into really our last slide. It's just setting that vision for what virtual is in KCS. And Ryan hit on it. Building capacity with our teachers is huge, because to me, all of the challenges that we're faced with right now is giving our teachers experience and learning opportunities to really transform their classrooms and improve how well they adapt to their students and how they serve their students. So we're going to continue to build that capacity. We want to make sure that we're providing that KCS guaranteed and viable curriculum. And to me, Canvas on the digital side allows us to do that the best. And it really streamlines things for us to provide teachers training consistently, and that we can continue to show that vision and help our teachers get there. We will continue to provide that ongoing and embedded professional learning opportunities for our teachers, and curate the KCS content to either offer that flexible learning where we can shift in and out of virtual, or to provide the best option that we can for our remote choice students going forward.
And as I mentioned lastly, you know, remote choice learning, we anticipate that being an option for our families moving forward in future years. And the work that we're doing now is helping to build that quality instruction for those learners in the future, and throughout the remainder of the school year. I think that's all we have for y'all. Any questions?
Yeah, I've got 2 questions. One about remote choice and one about face-to-face. About remote choice, can you give me an idea of what a teacher who is supporting remote choice, what does that look like? And what are some examples of supports that an RCL teacher gives to students and parents?
So the base curriculum is OdysseyWare. OdysseyWare is a platform, software that delivers the instruction through different modules and units. The students go through those lessons online, and they're graded partially by the program and partially by the KCS teachers. If it's an open-ended response, then that requires an actual teacher to go in, read the responses of the students, and give them a grade on that. Those two combine, and then the teacher, based on those results, they will provide additional support and instruction, tutoring in a specific area. From the dashboard, they'll be able to see, okay, which students are struggling with this learning standard, and then group them, do a Google Meet with students and provide some tutoring in that fashion. And then some teachers are serving both face-to-face students and remote choice students. And, you know, like we mentioned before, we're building the ship as it sails. So we're working through some of those challenges as well, because, you know, it has been challenging for some teachers. You know, the workload might be a little bit different than we were expecting, but we're making adjustments. Hope that answers the question.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And on the face-to-face side, when we're in a staggered start now, and say, kids are going, you know, one set of kids is going Monday, Tuesday, off on Wednesday, and then the other set are going Thursday, Friday. Are teachers typically presenting the same material to both, on Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday, Friday, or are they presenting different material on Thursday, Friday, part to face-to-face and part to virtual?
So I think it greatly depends on the teacher itself, and what level they're teaching, and what content they're teaching. I know some teachers are following the same curriculum no matter whether it's in class or out of class. They're using the same learning material, and so they're progressing through a week. They're not doing the same thing over with each group. Other groups are using the opportunity to say, we have this much material this week to cover. With my face-to-face students, when you're in here, we have activities and practices that we're going to go over where we can really come in and get you to deeply understand this material. And then when you're at home, these are some practices that you can use to go above and beyond what you already know about it. And then for the ones introductory material that are at home early in the week, to kind of help all of that instruction happen at home. And then when they get into the classroom, they really are able to go deeper into that learning. We also have some teachers that are hosting live classes when they're actually teaching their face-to-face students, and some students are at home watching that happen. So it depends on the different kind of philosophies, pedagogies, comfort levels of teachers. We put out a lot of communication and make this as usable as we can in trying to adapt to either small group learning or more personalized approaches. Because if you're creating that online content, you have a lot of your instructional material in a digital format that students can get whenever they need it. So that face-to-face time should really be spent on kind of going deeper with the student and hitting those individual needs.
Thank you.
So, and again, I appreciate everything. I know this isn't, and we kind of break past the 10 minutes, that's okay.
Yeah.
The Q&A though. So is there not a bit of a concern that we're going to have two different curriculums, seeing as how OdysseyWare has one curriculum, and then ostensibly because we started out in a virtual environment and the teachers were forced to create curriculum for Canvas, you now have parallel curriculums that may not match up?
Yeah. Do you want to speak on that?
I can speak on that. So believe it or not, prior to launching on August 10th, our teachers were trained on how to customize curriculum within the OdysseyWare platform. So what they were able to do was look at KCS's schedule and then what OdysseyWare had, and then we showed them how to go into Odyssey and make the adjustments. And while it's not exactly KCS curriculum, it aligns the best that we could get it to. And as I've mentioned previously, our goal is to continue to build out content and KCS develop curriculum that will eventually merge, and then that will be the vision for future years.
Right, that's great that we have a longer term plan for this year. It just gives me a bit of a concern that a kid's gonna come off Odyssey come back face to face and be faced with a curriculum that doesn't match up with what they just came off of. And if we're already creating curriculum for those who are in school 2 days a week, could that not then be adapted and used for the kids that are at home, so it is a more streamlined process when they come out? And I know you said you're working to implement that, but is it there's certain classes that can't be done for that, like you have to use Odyssey for certain classes, or?
So the process has begun at certain levels, because as I said, we're making adjustments on the fly. We didn't realize what Odyssey was fully until we got into it and started customizing the courses. So what we're doing is trying to fill those gaps that may exist within Odyssey with KCS content at the lower grade levels. There was more gaps there. And then what we're doing with secondary is we're continuing with Odyssey we have some teachers that are covering multiple subject areas. And for them to, try to develop content for multiple subject areas is very difficult. So having a platform like Odyssey for some teachers and families for that matter, we've had a lot of feedback from families that have said that they really appreciate the Odyssey platform. It's user-friendly on their end, and they appreciate the consistency. So there's been definitely two sides of the Odyssey versus Canvas KCS content this year, and those are things that we realize that we're analyzing, we're adapting to as we go the best we can. With long-term goals in mind, but we're certainly not ignoring the short-term either. We're making those adjustments.
To speak on kind of the face-to-face side, as students come out of remote and into face-to-face, we have started having those conversations with how we can meet and what are some things we can do to make that more seamless. The one thing I'll rest on is from what I've witnessed with all of our teachers here at KCS, they're going to do what's best for the student. They're not going to say, well, you've been in Odyssey so you're behind, or, and just leave them there. They're going to do their best to bring them up to speed and adapt. That's what teachers do. They find where the students need that support and pull them up. And so there is a little concern in the going back and forth that there is two different types of learning going on. And I think that's why that need is much greater to eventually get it to where we're seamless in one platform. But I also trust that our teachers are going to address it, and we're going to continue to have conversations on how we can kind of narrow that gap.
Yeah, and I just like to piggyback on that. The teachers involved, across the district, but if we're speaking just on remote choice learning, I can't say enough good things about the teachers and the difficult situation that they've been put into or chose. They have been working extremely long hours, and they need to be recognized for that and their positive attitude and their desire to do what's best for kids, because they're asking a lot of the same questions you are. We try to anticipate as many of those questions in advance as we can, but once we get moving, we don't know exactly where the ship's gonna go. It might veer off in a different direction, and it's our job to analyze where we're at and try to get us on course with the long term in mind too.
Is it, and I greatly appreciate it, I know this is just a heck of a year. Is the kids come off modesty wear, do they keep that same teacher, or do they go to a new teacher?
The RCL teachers, they are dedicated to the remote choice learners.
Even as the pool may shrink, but will there not come a time where we have to pull teachers off because the pool will shrink such that?
There will be adjustments that have to be made for sure. Yeah, and there's been some adjustments already made. Yeah.
So yeah,
we'll-
as the need for teacher shrinks, then those will be assigned back to face-to-face, back in face-to-face teachers. Because the capacity will be greater back at the school level.
Will those teachers then have to create new curriculum, or how is that gonna work when they come back?
Well, those were classes that they were teaching before. I mean, they're trained. They've been doing face-to-face for a lot longer. So for them to come back in, they're kind of coming back into the grade levels that they left, that they were assigned to prior to this. And they've been making preparations to teach prior to the start of the school year. So when they rotate back, they'll rotate back to those classes and grade levels.
And at the same time, there's been a lot of team planning, for face-to-face virtual, and within, this RCL cohort, there's been a lot of team planning, not just within the campus, but across the district, grade level wise. So that will help ease that burden if there is one. I mean, like Dr. Morehouse said, they've been teaching, most of these teachers for many years. They're familiar with the content, but having that support of their colleagues is huge. And the collaboration I've seen is unlike any I've seen before. Yeah.
Hey, gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us this evening and taking on the team of the project. And we appreciate you being in Fort City Schools and the job that you've done so far and continue to do. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Happy to do it.
I feel like a much more learning person, but it's been face to face.
Mr. President, there's one other name that we need to draw attention to is Dr. Stringham. Behind all of this, Dr. Stringham has been putting in, has really taken on the role of, we created a 1,700 student school. And at this point, she's taken on the role of principal. And so she is serving as the administrator for that school. So thank you, Dr. Stringham, for that work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to our business items, Council Guthrie will come. We're first on the agenda here. We have a technical issue with our superintendent's contract, and we need to settle it in a minute.
Thank you. Just wanted to take a minute to correct the record and just offer the second amendment to our contract for really editing. When it was originally passed on the meeting of July 14th, it indicated an ending of 2025. That term exceeds the statutory authority set the board, which is 4 years. So we just amended that to say 2024. So it's still March 31st date. 2024, so just want to bring that before you to make sure that the record's clear and that the board meeting minutes and things like that are clear on that date. Within the statutory authority.
Thanks, ma'am. Any questions? I have a motion to accept the second amendment as presented.
Second.
Thank you. Call the roll, please.
Mr. Carter?
Aye.
Mr. Sullivan?
Aye.
Mr. Hodge?
Aye.
Mrs. Upshaw? Mrs. Upshaw? Mr. Wells?
Aye. Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Hubbard, we're 4-2.
Good evening. We'd like to bring to you, we issued our RFP on August the 12th of 2020 for a customized benchmark assessment program. We had 2 organizations or vendors that did respond. One of them was Certical Solutions, and the other one was Illuminate Education. What we're asking tonight is that the Board of Ed to approve the work for a contract for a customized benchmark assessment program for KCS for a little bit under $84,000.
Questions, Mr. Hubbard? I have a motion to accept.
Yeah, quick question.
Yes, sir. Go ahead, sorry.
Is this software going to be integrated with all the rest of our software? We're going to have issues with it.
I can hear you, I'm sorry. sir.
Is this software going to work with all the rest? That the software's going to play nice?
It should work very well. This will be both the assessment platform. We currently were previously using the Performance Matters Unified platform that was a component of PowerSchool. PowerSchool purchased the product a couple of years ago, and we've seen great decline in performance with the platform. So the other caveat of that is Case 21 actually builds the customized benchmark assessment, which is another thing, which are all new passages, all new assessment items, which is something that no other vendor does. So we've spoken to multiple districts across the entire state, and they've had very smooth implementation across the board, a great customer service. Even last year, we used paper, but every time that we had a question, they responded within a matter of moments, and everything was rectified in a very quick manner.
We utilized it in last spring, and so it's a company that we have history with. And so I think the question would be if are these going to be paper pencil or are these going to be online?
These will be online.
And so being able to do that online, will that work inside Canvas or ClassLink or things? I think that's the question you're asking.
Right. It will integrate with the ClassLink with what we're using. That was part of the RFP that we put out to make sure that it could integrate with what we're already utilizing. It won't be embedded within Canvas.
Right.
It will be its own assessment platform, but it will be able to link seamlessly with ClassLink. So once they open ClassLink to the SSO, they can just click that icon on the top, and it will open up for the students.
And then for us on the back end, it gives us the data that we need in order to be able to put it back in the computer, or does it integrate directly in, like it does the work for us? Because in the old system, I thought there used to have to be like a hand tabulation.
Now that we had two different things going on. We had an assessment platform that we were administering paper benchmark assessments. What we're trying to do is utilize the platform to have instantaneous reporting. So that way, when the students do take the benchmark assessment, the teachers will have automatic reports and be able to work with that to help the students move further along.
Is what you want, is what you're hoping for, is as soon as the kid takes the test, the teacher will get the results.
Yes, it's instantaneous.
That'll be instantaneous.
When we did paper, it had to be sent off and we put the PDF copy.
Right.
Yeah, so you won't have to do that. Everything will be on inside the platform. Teachers can access it, pull it down, and again, it's instantaneous as soon as they.
And they can tailor the reports, the kind of reports that they want to do. So it'll all be inside of that platform.
Perfect. That's what I'm getting at. Thank you.
Any other questions? You have a motion to accept?
So
Move.
I'll second that.
Second. Saul Tyler, call the roll for vote, please.
Mrs. Byers? Aye. Mr. Golden? Mr. Pye?
Aye.
Mrs. Upshaw?
Aye.
Mr. Welch?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Hubbard. We're at item 4.3, approval to renew an ENA voice service opt-in agreement with Metro Nashville. Dr. Robinson?
Hi, good evening, how's everybody? So what I have for you is I guess a change of the agreement of our master service agreement for our ENA voice services that we use. We recently signed a 3-year agreement in 2018, but they're offering some additional services now, so we opt in for an additional 3 years. Primarily the ENA Smart Voice Go app, which we've had a lot of requests for from RCL teachers as well as other teachers, virtual. So what we would like for the board to do is to bring a motion to renew the opt-in agreement with ENA services for a 3-year term to take advantage of those voice services.
Questions for Dr. Robinson?
Would the app allow them to essentially receive the calls that would come into the classroom
Yes,
on.
yes, it is an app that is installing on a mobile device that basically connects to your desk phone. So if someone calls their extension, it will ring straight to the app on their mobile phone as well.
And then when they can make calls from their mobile phone, and it will come across as coming from their.
Correct.
From their desk as well.
That's what I was gonna ask, is it gonna hide their numbers so people can't
Yeah,
stop them and start
Yeah,
them?
when they call outbound, it will be from their desk.
Question?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Mrs. Sonic? Aye. Mr. Conklin?
Aye.
Mr. Hyde?
Aye.
Mrs. Upshaw? Aye. Mr. Wells?
Aye. Thank you, Dr. Robinson. Members will recall that item 4.4 has been tabled to a future date. We're up to Mr. True. The draft of the 2021 school calendar.
2021 cannot get here fast enough.
Can we just start this calendar now?
Anyway, let's call it the 21 calendar.
Yeah. So it's that time of year where we like to bring you a draft calendar for your review. Typically, as we like to do is to look at this in September, gain any feedback, or then from the September board meeting, spend the next month gathering input or feedback or exploring possibilities that you all or suggestions you have so that we would actually vote at the October meeting on a calendar. So I have for you for our initial review a draft 21-22 calendar that will look a lot like the 2021 calendar. There's going to come a time here in the next couple of years where it's going to get a little wonky. This year, we can stay fairly consistent with the calendar that we currently have with a 178-day instructional calendar, counting those 2 extra days that we would use from our bank time for professional development in the middle of first and second semesters. So similar to this year's calendar, this draft calendar has us starting the first full week of August with students, then backing up a week from that in July, the last week of July for staff, like we traditionally have done. A full week fall break in October. You'll note an in-service day, again, that extra bank day in October, listed on the 22nd right now. There's some conversations about some possibilities to use that. So that is something that, again, that in-service day on the 22nd. 3 days in November for Thanksgiving, a 2-week with 3 weekends, winter break around Christmas and New Year's. Again, this with Christmas on the Saturday. This is when you get into that situation where we're beginning to look at whether or not we start the break a full week ahead of that, or do we go half week? But when you do that, you don't end up with 3 weekends, so it shortens the break a little bit. But if you also then start the break a little bit later, you end up coming back for second semester deep into January. So this calendar has us starting second semester with staff in-service day on the 3rd of January, students on the 4th. A full week, obviously, for spring break, the last week of March. Good Friday holiday on the April 15th. This would then, using our 178-day instructional calendar, have us with a half day, an abbreviated day on May 19th. We need to have an admin day really between that last day of school and graduation. So we would target graduation on May 21st of 2022. That last in-service day on the 23rd, just as a reminder, we have done that for several years. That's kind of a placeholder within the contract with teachers. They will work through the course of the year to build up time, in-service time over the course of the year. So they don't actually necessarily, if they come back on the 23rd, that would be time that they would back visit with the person. So it's just a first run, very similar to what we have this year. I'm happy to take any feedback or questions.
I have 2 things.
Okay.
One is, can we put a G on May 21st?
We would do, I try not to do that right now because once that's there, the community then locks in on that, and until you all vote on that, I don't want to put that thought in anybody's mind. So yes, we absolutely would do that, but that would be
Okay,
after.
that's why I was like,
after
we have a
it's
G,
done.
but we're not using it.
Correct, yeah. I
Either
don't,
put the G or put it on there.
The other thing is we moved the in-service day in October to the 18th, kind of like we did this year, to allow for the fall break to essentially be a little longer, which allows for Eastern employees especially to be able to split that week and share it. That's what we've done for this year.
So the thought behind the in-service day is that there's a regional effort this year for the 22nd that school systems from across the region would share on that 22nd day, that there would be a regional professional development day looking at best practices that would be done in coordination with Nashville Foundation and also utilizing data from our benchmark assessments that we have, because there's probably not going to be, and just FYI, the benchmark assessment that you approved, all school districts in Northeast Tennessee are using the similar benchmark assessment, so that you can be looking at that data and have some comparative data to be able to utilize. And so the thought, so in polling that, the 22nd was the date that everybody had identified as the day that they wanted to try this professional development day. It's a practice that we used to do early in my career. It was called UTEC, but they would have a common professional development day in the fall. Practice kind of went away, and we have a lot of collaboration going on right now. So that's the thought behind the 22nd right there.
Did we move March then, the 14th, down to the 25th? To your point, Joe, throw one extra day on there. Kids are out on the 25th. March.
Surely the department has identified it at all possible days just because of,
Well, it goes to utilization of professional development days. Typically, when we have a professional development days, butted up against there, that we have a lot of staff that use personal days to take those time, and then we use the opportunity for actual professional development, because not everybody's there.
Yeah.
Okay. So, any further suggestions should be forwarded to you, discussed with you?
please, yes.
Yes, I mean, all of those don't mean no. I mean, I just was giving you the thought process behind why those don't mean no. Those are just thoughts.
Any other questions, comments? Thanks, sir.
Okay, thank you. I'll be back to you when I come.
That brings us to item 5.2, the committee assignments for 2021, and members were submitted a list of those committee assignments. I received no edits or changes, so I assume that list stands as printed. Is that correct? Okay, good. Committee reports. Julie.
You always know I have
Always,
committee
you like to
reports.
go first.
All right, I know this will shock you, but it might be my last report on the census.
Okay.
And we're down to the wire because September 30th is the last day you can do your census. And right now, our self-response rates nationwide are 65.3%. Our Tennessee rates are 64.6%. Sullivan County is 66%. And Kingsport is 68.6%. So Kingsport's, topping it. But as of last Friday, if we look at this self-response rates and some of the follow-up enumeration, we are about 87%. And that's really not good enough. Each person that we don't count is $1,100 that we don't get back to this area. And we are not allowed to do a guesstimate. So I can't just go in and say, well, there's probably 4 people here or whatever. So we really need to, and the census is not designed for those that fly under the radar. If there's an undocumented family here, they're not gonna go after you because you filled out your census paper. If there's somebody who's been out, on parole, it's okay, they already have your address, you might as well fill it out in the census. If you have a family member who's living in a senior center, a nursing home, assisted living, and you know that they're not very, competent on a computer, not to mean ill to older people, but I just know how some people get technology scared. If you know of your neighbor who might need some technology help, please go offer it. It is very easy. Go to census2020.gov and reach out to anybody you think might need help, because that's what funds our schools, our roads, our jails. It really counts because it counts towards the number of people that we have representing us in Nashville. And so it's really important system. They do a big one every 10 years, and we are down to 2.5 weeks to go to get 13% more done. So I know we've got on the census committee, we are trying to go to the homeless shelters and Shades of Grace. They were counting the jail. I think they're counting the jail this week or next week. So, hopefully we'll get that number up to, at least 90%. But $1,100, it's not per household, it's per person. So get that in if you can. All right, the next thing is the diversity committee. And as you all know, I have been tasked to be the representative on the school board on the diversity committee. And right now that means kind of two committees I am on. One is called Hope for Racial Equity, and that is a community-wide platform to discuss diversity. And really our focus right now is we are looking at racial issues at this point in time on the diversity one. And we have representatives from all over the community addressing things like how can we get more racial diversity on the school board or in our school system? How can we treat people better? How can we put some things aside? So I've been trying to put myself in. I've actually talked to quite a few people of African-American descent to understand how little remarks that are made on social media, how that impacts somebody. And I've read quite a few books at this point. So I'm doing the best I can to understand. And I've learned a lot. I've been mortified by some things. I'd be amiss to say I've not been shocked. And so I'm glad I'm doing that. And I'm also on the school system diversity committee. And we just actually started meeting, and we're trying to figure out, as I explained to them, we can't eat an elephant in one bite. We have to do it, one bite at a time. We can't boil the ocean. So let's figure out a start, and we can eventually tackle all the issues. But if you start out trying to do them all at one time, nothing's going to get done. The committee's going to get frustrated, and we're going to be back for 6 years from now doing the exact same thing. So right now our task is to understand, where do we need to focus first? And is it on the socioeconomic level? Is it on, a racial issue? Where are we? So that committee meets once a month. And so we're bringing some resources together. And I said I would take some of the documentation for the Hope for Racial Equity and bring those platforms back. So hopefully we can have a path forward on that. But mentioning diversity, I also have to at least throw this out there, is we know that there are some petitions circulating around on social media right now, one in favor of keeping our traditional mascots and one opposed to keeping our traditional mascots. And both opinions are fine. Everybody's entitled to an opinion. I just ask that we keep the hatred out of it. Everybody's very passionate for one reason or another. That is not something that the board is up to discussing. We have a lot more on our plate right now with trying to get our schools and our students in school safely. It is something that our diversity committee can address, but right now that is not our number one topic. And I know that's painful for some people to hear, but we're just going to leave it at that and at least acknowledge that we are aware that there are petitions circulating. So with that, I don't have any more committee reports tonight. Mr. Welch.
Thank you. I appreciate all the work you're doing here. It's very important for us. Absolutely. Are there any other committee reports? Then I'll turn it over to you, Dr. Morehouse.
Yes, we've have been meeting pretty frequently here as of late. And so there's probably not as much meat to report. I want to say congratulations to Ryan Herzog. Ryan Herzog was recognized today in a press release. He scored a perfect score on the ACT. He's the son of Shelley and Jeff Herzog. And we'll have him come and give him the appropriate recognition at a future board meeting. But it's always exciting when we see kids excel here in Kingsport City Schools. Want to go to say to our public and to our board, again, sorry for the miscommunication at our last board meeting. Just a miscommunication, but want to be able to establish that as long as we're under pledge guidelines and are having to restrict access here, we will be broadcasting our meetings for the foreseeable future. We're exploring different platforms that don't require different accounts or anything like that, so that it can be more universal. Today we're on YouTube, but we'll be broadcasting for the foreseeable future our meetings, at least while we have restricted access here. Talking about a return to school, last week was a super exciting day for us as a school system, for us as a community. We were able to start welcoming kids back to school. I can attest to last Monday. I started my day riding school buses. Super impressed with kids from the standpoint that, you know, there wasn't a bus stop that we came to that the kids didn't have the mask on, or if they were getting on, they had them on, and really mask wearing has not been an issue with our kids overall. I'm pleased to say that. That was universally the comment that I got from principals, no matter where we went in the school system, is that they just were really singing the praises of our students and their diligence in wearing their mask while in the building. Was able to, Mr. Welch also participated in riding some buses and visiting some schools. I know Ms. Byers was able to visit some schools that we crossed paths in the course of the day, but got around to all the schools and really just universally the feeling was just, it was good to have kids back in buildings. And so, and so we went through the week, while it was a shortened week, went through the week, getting things started here again this week. Continue to had a great conversation with our health department last week. They were, you know, having football and the extracurricular start, and then having the schools come on board. I think that they were expecting to see some uptick in numbers. Things were really stable, and that's a good thing. So now really what our focus needs to be is, while we're stable and we don't see an uptick, we need to try to get our numbers down. They're not going up, but we still need them to go down from that aspect. And again, just wash, wait, and wear. The big three there. As we anticipate going in conversations that I know having with the health department, that while things are stable, you know, the big question mark now is what's the impact of Labor Day? As we look at Memorial Day, 4th of July, there's usually the big question mark now is, are we going to see an uptick as a result of Labor Day? I'm keeping my fingers crossed that answer is going to be no. I'm keeping my fingers crossed that we're going to continue to be diligent. Even if we can get improving numbers, that we want to just get that all the way back to yellow, that we're not having to do this in phases. My goal would really at this point be, let's not phase this in, let's get us to yellow so that we can just come all the way back in with our kids. So, but the big message that I want to say is that we came back and we didn't see huge number spikes, and that's great. Want to also remind our community that as we experience positive cases in our district, if you'll look at our website, we have those reported on our dashboard where those happen. Today, we had 2 new cases. So we have 4 cases across our district of positive cases. One's at Ross and Robinson, one's at DB, one's at Jackson, and one is here at the ASC. And so those are where we have 4 positive cases across the district at this time. And so, and then one other important announcement that I want to draw attention to that if families aren't aware of, starting this past September 1, federal guidelines changed that our students, no matter which school you attend, up until Christmas can get a free breakfast and free lunch every day. And so excited to be able to offer that service back to our students, and really proud of our school nutrition team as we work through this. So I think that covers my report for right now, and I will conclude with that.
Any questions for Dr. Morehouse? I wish to draw the board's attention to the PSBA Fall District meeting, which will be virtual. It's coming up on September 14th, so hopefully you can find a computer close by. And a reminder that our work session is Thursday evening, September 24th, on Tuesday. You'll have the Tuesday fixed on your calendars. I do with mine. It is Thursday, September 24th. With that, we stand adjourned. Roll proud.
See you, Gary.
Bye, Gary.
Okay.
I wrote that one. The one you said, and so that